Hello everyone, I'm Meghan LeVota and I'm an ENFJ. For those of you who watch me a lot, you might be wondering, why do I have this gray background instead of the teal background? Well, it's because I'm wearing this new shirt or sweater, and I would look like a floating head if I, didn't do this, which is really funny to me because I kind of have a favorite color. If you've noticed, this is the candle I have. It's a good color. Anyway, so today I would like to go starting off a new series. You can expect videos from me every day for 16 days in a row, starting off with the INFJ. I'm going to tell you what have I learned from the INFJ. And whenever I say INFJ, I mean INFJs that I have observed, like insights that I have learned from watching how INFJs live their life, what I have learned from what I've heard INFJs say on the internet, what I've learned from just thinking about what NI first and then FE second is, what I've learned from actual INFJs, actual lessons that they've taught me in my life, and just overall, like, the existence of the INFJ, whatever you want to call it, the fact that they exist. What have I learned from that, from their existence? From individuals, collectively, philosophically, actually, in every sense. So, about the number one thing that I've learned is that if you want to be loved, if you want true connection, it's gonna have to be, the only way to do that is by being 100% aligned with who you are. Now, I think that INFJs and ENFJs have similar issues where a lot of times we think we feel really misunderstood, or we feel really lonely, or we feel like we don't belong, and we crave belonging and we crave being loved so much. But what I've really learned from observing INFJs is that I'm not going to get the love that I crave if I keep bending myself to be what I'm not and using too much FE and, trying to please this person and this person and this person and this person. INFJs as a collective seem to understand that if they have to bend too much for a person, then the love that they have to offer isn't going to be as fulfilling or as meaningful as what the INFJ is looking for. And INFJs really understand quality over quantity when it comes to intimacy. They really crave intimacy, as do I, but they really have refined, and what I've really learned by observing them to refine what that means. What sort of qualities do I want in a person, romantically or friendship wise? What am I willing to tolerate? What am I willing to not tolerate? INFJs and ENFJs tend to struggle with boundaries and setting boundaries, but INFJs seem to struggle a bit less with the boundary thing. That's why, like, you've probably heard of the INFJ door slam, where once you've crossed the line for an INFJ, they won't really budge, they won't really take you back. And I've made another video before that I'll link up here somewhere about the ENFJ ultimatum, where ENFJs, what we tend to do is let someone know if they're crossing our line in a way that might sound a little bit manipulative or a little bit aggressive, or we'll be like, you aren't meeting my emotional needs, or you are hurting my feelings. This behavior has to stop, or else we cannot continue a friendship or a relationship. That can be very daunting for someone to hear, and so normally what happens is the person will say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll change, or I won't do that anymore, but then so the ENFJ will keep taking them back because they keep giving that person the benefit of the doubt. I've learned from INFJs seem to, as a whole, judge people by what they do way more than what they say. And I as an ENFJ, can get really caught up in the nice words that people say that can make me feel a little bit used and taken for granted and taken advantage of. And INFJs, they'll just observe what is going on, the situation at hand, and they won't get as easily confused by that as I would. And they seem to have more faith in the universe than me. And I know that's a really bold claim, because having faith in the universe isn't necessarily correlated with, type. But I've noticed that intuitives first in general, so like ENFP, ENTP, INFJ, and INTJ, they sort of have this sort of faith because their first function quite literally is like what you can't see. But INFJs in particular tend to believe, everything happens for a reason. And for those of you, now this is also a pretty bold claim, feel free to disagree, but I really think that when an INFJ does not believe that things happen for a reason, they a lot of times fall into a depression. Because if an INFJ does not believe in the flow of the universe and that things happen for a reason, then their NI is kind of going to be going crazy and attaching to things that don't really need their attention, and feeling like life is meaningless, life is pointless. So if you are struggling with that, please comment below or reach out to me and maybe I can help in some way, because I definitely think it's very healthy, and most INFJs that I've come across honestly really do believe that everything happens for a reason. Whether or not they're probably not the person that says it all the time, they're probably not like the person that like has it written on their wall, everything happens for a reason, but it's just something so ingrained that they just trust. And INFJs also, what I've learned from observing them is that I don't always have to work so hard to prove my worth to people or prove my worth to situations. They seem a lot more easygoing than me when it comes to relationships, career, friendships. An INFJ would know if they're exerting themselves too much and giving too much of themselves, and if they aren't getting something back in return. I think it's because INFJs are introverts. They are more aware of the energy that they're giving off, whereas me as an extrovert, I can kind of take for granted how much energy I have. I don't really realize whenever I'm wasting my energy until I burn out, and I can go like weeks on end just giving and giving before I even notice that, it's taking my precious energy. But INFJs want so badly to help people around them and to help the world, yet they have limited energy. So that's can kind of be an oxymoron. They need to really make sure that the energy that they're giving is actually going to be beneficial and actually going to be useful. And this is also because they have higher up introverted thinking in the third slot, as opposed to, for me, it's in my fourth. So they'll really think like, is this useful? Is this beneficial? And they'll balance their feeling and their thinking to try and decide, is this actually, going to be a fruitful endeavor? And I've sort of observed, I have actually written over there on my wall, I have this little mood board where I will write messages to myself. I wrote, wait for clarity. And that has been really helpful for me. And I feel like I've learned that from INFJs, where they won't be as impulsive as I am. Now, all INFJs can be a little impulsive, but they won't be as impulsive as I am. They'll really want to make sure that what they're about to do is going to be a fruitful endeavor for them. And I think that has been beneficial to try and integrate into my life, to actually make sure with NI and TI that every endeavor that I'm doing is going to be, going to be worth my time. Because INFJs don't want to waste their time in that regard. They don't want to just give to someone and then, maybe it won't work out, or maybe it won't benefit me. They're way more mindful of their energy, and so that's something that I have learned from them. Also, they definitely trust their initial impression, where I can be someone that trusts an impression and then maybe goes back on it because it doesn't really end up making sense, like in the sensory world. I admire how INFJs will trust their impression. And also another thing is, like, they really don't seem as bogged down by what people think. I know that you are. I know that almost every INFJ is going to comment and say, oh, but I do care about what people think. But consider this. Has what people thought ever truly changed who you are? Has it actually really impacted you? Yes, you're going to say yes, because socialization impacts everyone, and we all are impacted by what people think. But from my perspective as an ENFJ, it definitely seems to bother you way less than how it bothers me. INFJs seem very stable in who they are. And even though they want people to like them, really you want to be accepted for who you are. You don't want to be what you're not just to be accepted, because that's just not going to be anything for you. And so honestly, INFJs to me seem to have such a strong inner strength and inner trust that I envy and I try and emulate, because even if people are all telling you, like, I don't like the clothes you wear, I don't like the person you date, I don't like the way that you express yourself, I don't like your identity, I don't like what you've chosen as a career, INFJs seem pretty unmoldable, like, to me, from my perspective. And just because I know how you guys are, you're all going to say, oh no, but I have been molded. Well, just think about the ways that you haven't been molded. Just think about that for a second. Like, consider that maybe I'm right. Maybe you aren't moldable. It's another thing that, literally as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that something that does annoy me about INFJs is that sometimes they won't really listen to what you're saying because they're going to filter it through their perspective and what they believe, and NINTI, which honestly, that kind of proves my point. Like, you aren't moldable, because half of you probably didn't even listen to what I just said because you were thinking about the time that, you know, someone told you they didn't like you and it really impacted you and made you sort of dim your light a little bit. I get it, I've been there. But did that actually mold you? Did that change your values? Did that change who you are? Really, probably not. Like, if you're an INFJ, you are very sure about that. And I'm thinking of one INFJ friend in particular that I know would really argue with me about this. But honestly, you guys are way too hard on yourself, and you are way too self-deprecating about things. And I notice from observing you that you really don't mold in the way that most people mold. Like, you really are not that impressionable, because quite literally I'm trying to tell you that you aren't moldable and you aren't even taking what I say into consideration. I'm sure some of you are agreeing, but you know, I'm saying this for the people that aren't, because I think every INFJ, like, you have to filter what you just heard through your little brain before you'll even think about accepting it, because it has to not conflict with who you are, and it has to not conflict with what you believe. And it's very hard to change an INFJ's mind. You guys are incredibly stubborn, and you are also incredibly not likely to get sucked up in political drama of he said this, she said that. INFJs are very, very capable of having a nuanced perspective of, like, I think this person was right in this situation, but this person was right in this situation, and you just do not view things as black and white when it comes to the truth. You're very focused on seeing the truth in all angles, but also once you know that something is true, you're going to be pretty adamant about that and not really change your perspective on that. Even if people are threatening you or telling you that they think that you're wrong in a certain way, like if you've come to a conclusion, you hold that very dear and you do protect it. You are very protected. Your NINTI, like your identity, what you believe, is very protected. Even though you might seem to some people like weak in some regard, which is actually ridiculous to me. Like INFJs are just absolutely not weak. Like it's so ridiculous to even think that an INFJ would be weak, because it's almost like the world, you have built yourself a little magnetic field around you of the world where you are you and you are influencing the world. The world does not influence you. You influence the world. Your beliefs, who you are, is what's influencing the world. You don't really take that on. INFJs are the sort of people where like they discovered that they were LGBT growing up, and they knew deep down they were, and even if their parents didn't accept, they just knew they were, and they never questioned being it. And or maybe you were an INFJ growing up who knew you wanted to be a musician, and you just knew. Or you knew you wanted to be a writer, or you knew you wanted to whatever. Sure, you were molded by your experience, but think about all the people that did not come out or did not do the major that they wanted to do. This is cheesy. It was like an INFJ, like it's your life and everyone else is just living in it. Like all these people that are trying to mold you, they aren't actually molding you, okay? Because you knew who you were probably when you were 13, and people tried to mold you, but it didn't work, because look at you now. Like you are doing kind of, what you wanted to do. It does bother you though that people don't get your reasonings, and that is completely valid. That's just a sign of your empathy. But anyway, yeah, I really admire that, because for me, whenever I've had similar things like wanting to come out, wanting to, do the career I want to do, like I always second guess myself. Always. Like I always second guess myself and listen to like the common knowledge of, the FE world, and I always question what I think based on what people say. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm an NFJ too, so I'm like similar in that regard. We're like, yes, I am not that moldable. Yes, I am going to choose myself. But it still is a sort of back and forth of like, am I right? Like, should I trust myself? I don't know. INFJs feel like aliens a lot of the time in this world, because you do trust yourself. You are you. And that's really hard. But I really admire it, because I wish I had the courage. I do have the courage, but like INFJs observing you have inspired me to have the courage to be unabashedly myself. And also knowing, another thing I've learned from INFJs is knowing when to not share, knowing when to not argue, knowing when that is going to be not fruitful. Kind of like when I was talking about the energy and being aware of your energy levels earlier. INFJs don't really waste their time. If they know that it's a fight that is not going to actually end in a resolution, then they might not have that fight. Or if they know that sharing your opinion in that scenario is just going to make people upset and not actually land well, INFJs seem to think about if something's going to land, where I sort of do things for the principle of the thing, like as an ENFJ, like, well, I'm always going to fight for a resolution, or I'm always going to say what I think if I think it. And sometimes that's not always the best thing to do, and I've sort of learned that from an INFJ, like knowing when things could be left unsaid, or knowing when to calm down and to not get yourself worked up about something. They also are, a little less defensive about things. They might just walk away, cool down. you know, that's something else I've learned from them. Anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap this video up. Please comment below if there's a type that you would like me to do next. I love you, INFJs. I believe in you. Whatever is bothering you right now in your life, whoever is not accepting you, or whatever desire you have that hasn't quite manifested itself yet, like, just know, like, all of this, the world is just a fucking game sometimes. Like, you just have to keep trusting yourself and what you want. Like, just keep your one-track mind on, keep your blinders on to what you want and who you are, because all of the other stuff is just noise. And I admire INFJs for knowing the signal in the noise, and so just keep your eye on that signal, even if it doesn't feel like you're there yet. Every NJ is always one step ahead. So, oh no, I'm not there where I want to be. Oh yeah, well, good for you. You are already looking down the line way before something could have manifested yet. So just trust yourself that, yes, my perception is a little bit far ahead. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to get there. It just means that I'm a little focused ahead as opposed to focused now. And so trust yourself and know that, you know, I guess that what I'm perceiving now is what is on the horizon. Trust that your desire is on the horizon, and keep your blinders on and just keep going for it. I love you, INFJs. Thank you for watching this video. If you're interested in having more conversations like this, please join my Facebook group, Personality Typology for Self-Growth. I will post that below, and have a wonderful day.